Going to be global corporatism. Multinational corporations and the billionaires who control them will be the ones who are calling the shots. They are the stakeholders. You don't have a stake in this future if we don't stop this. They are the stakeholders. And they say the United Nations headquarters in New York on September 25th to the 27th enacted this. They say this is an agenda, and this is their own summary of this. This is an agenda of unprecedented scope and significance. It is accepted by all countries and is applicable to all, taking into account different national realities, capacities, levels of development, etc. These are universal goals and targets which involve the entire world, developed and developing countries alike. They're integrated, indivisible, and they balance the three dimensions of sustainable development. This is a global plan. They see that this is really big. It's not getting any coverage in the press. People are not paying any attention to it. And yet we see that the Catholic Church is really the one that is taking the lead under this Pope. We have global bishops who've called for complete decarbonization by 2050. That's not something that's new. That was something that came out of the Copenhagen Exchange 6 years ago. What they have done is they are using the Catholic Church and this Pope as the new face to sell this old world agenda. This is what this is. We're going back into the dark ages, back into serfdom. And they point out these bishops are calling for complete decarbonization, no carbon of anything, okay? And they want a drastic reduction in the emission of carbon dioxide and other toxic gases. Folks, carbon dioxide is not a toxic gas. It's breathed out by us. But of course, they can reduce the number of people radically and reduce the amount of carbon. They can reduce our food and reduce the amount of carbon. They can keep us from heating and cooling our homes and kill us off that way, reduce our standard of living, reduce our life expectancy. They can get rid of us that way. They can decarbonize us with that. So the bishops have urged to keep in mind not only the technical, but particularly the ethical and moral dimensions of climate change, because that's the way they're coming at us this year. They say, of course, the disagreements are who should pay for this and how will we make sure that this is enforced? Well, I just read that to you. That's what's coming up at the end of this month. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you why we don't need to be worried about global warming, but why we need to be worried about this one world government, this one world redistribution of wealth for the multinational elitists. We'll be right back.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Vote for Jeb, or you're just fucking stupid.
I'm running for president. Everyday Americans need a champion, and I want to be that champion. I'm hitting the road to earn your vote, and I hope you'll join me on this journey.
Your liver can be full of fatty deposits, built-up toxins, and even dangerous objects known as liver stones. We worked with the top developers in the field of detox to take tried and true herbs and other compounds known to safely cleanse the liver and fused it with the latest research and technological development on concentrating these ingredients to give you the maximum effect. Liver Shield is the only liver support product on the market that uses a patented Spigirex blend of powerful organic herbs that support detoxification. And when you visit InfoWarsLife.com, see the instructional video on how to do a 6-day liver detox. This isn't a game, and let me tell you, the results are dramatic. Liver Shield is totally organic and made of the safest high-quality herbs. But that said, you need to consult your physician before you do the full detox. Liver Shield can also be used daily by itself for overall upkeep of the liver. Secure your Liver Shield today exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com for the lowest price available. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139. Brain Force is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brain Force.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're gonna crash and gonna feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We kept changing this formula over and over and over again until it became sort of a grand puzzle. For example, the L-theanine inside of it, that is activated by the different compounds in the yerba mate that we put inside of it as well. This just increases the compounds you already have.
This is what you're actually designed to run on.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a car will run on one form of junkie gas, but it runs really good on what it's designed for. You will find Brain Force, Survival Shield X2, and other game-changing products at InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
I want more candy. I want more video games. Lie.
And it's that type of behavior that spurred me to do the research to develop a true nutraceutical formula that was designed to smooth out and help children focus. All of our children are hit with modern mind control. Television, music, fast food, GMOs, sugars, you name it. Young humans have not yet developed their nervous system and are being hammered daily by globalist concoctions. It's no wonder they can't focus and calm down and then are put on dangerous psychotropic drugs. Working with my team, we set out to find the best formula with the highest quality ingredients that children would actually like and take. We worked with the leading manufacturer in nutritional supplements that are safe for children to bring you the most affordable and powerful calming formula out there. Introducing Child Ease with herbs and calming extracts like chamomile and lemon balm and essential nutrients that taste great. Obtain your Child Ease today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's Child Ease exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. Knockout is back. If you want a product that has 10 known ingredients that naturally get your body to relax, your brain to relax, so you get deep, restful sleep, Knockout's it. InfoWarsLife.com. L-theanine, hops flower extract, lemon balm extract, valerian root extract, chamomile flower extract, L-tryptophan extract, melatonin, and more. All organic, all the natural sources. It's the same price as leading brands of melatonin that are 3 milligrams a piece. It has 3 milligrams, the standard recommended dose for an adult. It's got the GABA, so it would probably cost $50 to take all this as separate pills. It's $19.95. You take one or two of these, and it just is really clean, restful sleep is what the reviews are. It's what I've experienced, and it just synergistically puts everything in there. InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com, or call 888-253-3139.
I want to continue with this threat because we need to understand what the end game to this is global governance. It's been that for a very long time. In order to sell taxation at a global level, in order to sell a bureaucracy that is going to control everything at a global level, and to establish crony capitalism at a global level, they are telling us that we are facing an urgent threat to our very existence with man-made global warming. So the solution to that is socialism. That's what we see from Bill Gates. We're going to get to that article in just a moment. But let's question this fundamental assumption. Let's be skeptics of the science for one moment here. Let's take a look, for example, at what NASA has just revealed. We see that NASA has just put the lie to the fact that we're told it's a fact, but it's not, that the global polar ice caps are melting. Not true. Only half true. That's the way they manipulate the data. And let's take a close look at how this data has been manipulated. Now, this is a report from Jay Zwally, a glaciologist with NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. And he says, according to the new analysis of satellite data, the Antarctic ice sheet showed a net gain of 112 billion tons of ice a year from 1992 to 2001. And what he's saying is, we're essentially in agreement with other studies that show an increase in ice discharge. So he says, yeah, there's more ice that's being discharged from the Antarctic, but understand that there's more ice overall. He says the difference is, our main disagreement is for the East Antarctica and the interior of West Antarctica. There we see ice gain that exceeds the losses in other areas. You understand? You have even more ice gain there. So yeah, you're seeing more ice discharged, but the polar bears aren't dying. They're perfectly happy with their situation there, and the ice is actually seeing a net increase. Now, the way some people have spun this, they say other scientists have observed gains in land elevation in East Antarctica, explains NASA, but they've attributed this to snowfall in the region. You see how the data can be manipulated? You see how they can look at the same information, the height of the land, and one of them can say, well, it's snow that's causing it to be that high, but the ice is really melting underneath it. So I'm going to go with my original theory so we can move ahead with global governance. Even though It's increasing in elevation. That's nothing but snow. Nevertheless, Zwali's team used meteorological data dating back to 1979 to show that snow accumulation in East Antarctica has actually been declining, showing that the increase in elevation must be the result then of thicker ice. Do you understand that? Think about that. You got the same data. You can see that it's going up, but of course, the people who are selling us this elaborate lie to justify global governance, global taxation, global bureaucracy, say, oh, it's the snow. NASA came back and said, no, sorry, that doesn't work either, because we've got records showing the snowfall in the Antarctica. But of course, if you question this, you will be facing the worst kind of persecution, the kind of persecution that we haven't seen since the Vatican Scientific Advisory Board was created back with Galileo and Copernicus, when people were vilified, when they lost their living because of the science that they came up with. You can't have a free discussion. You can't have open skepticism that science is based on. Because if you're somebody like Philip Verdier, a household name in France for his daily weather reports, he's actually known as Mr. Weather in France because he is the weatherman on the French channel there, the largest French channel. And he wrote, my book, Climate Investigation, was published 1 month ago. It got me banned from the airwaves, and he was put on leave back on October 12th, and we reported about that. Now the update today is that he has actually been fired. And this is from Climate Depot. He says, I received this letter this morning and decided to open it in front of you because it concerns everybody. In the name of freedom of expression and freedom of information, and I would also say free inquiry, freedom to do science. No, you can't have that, because they are going to push this agenda regardless of what the facts say. They're not going to try to debate you. They will silence you. And that should tell you all you need to know about these socialists. He says his book was coming out just weeks before the start of the much anticipated UN Climate Change Summit, which is going to be in Paris. So if it's going to be in Paris, you can't have the main meteorologist in France questioning the fundamental assumptions of global warming, can you? As a matter of fact, it got even worse than that. He wrote his book in response to France's Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius. He met with TV meteorologists and asked them to highlight climate change issues in their broadcasts. He said, I was horrified by this speech. So he wrote this book saying there's a lot to be skeptical about. And we talked about this in great length when this story first came out. Of course, at that time, he'd only been put on a leave of absence. We saw the same thing happening here in Austin at the American Meteorological Society. The only non-scientific exhibitor there was a George Soros Foundation, who were there to tell meteorologists that they needed to push man-made global warming on their audiences. They said, this is horrible. Most meteorologists don't believe this theory. And it's like, yeah, absolutely, because they do science. They create models that they can test, and they're constantly refining those models to try to get more accurate weather predictions. And I imagine it's even harder for them to swallow the idea that somebody can predict the climate decades or centuries in advance of now, when they can't do it with all of their scientific tools a few days in advance as accurately as they would like to do. But of course, today we see that it is really socialism that can save the planet. This is what Bill Gates is telling us. This is an article we have on INFOWARS.com today. So the world's richest man, Bill Gates, has said that the private sector is too selfish, too inefficient to produce effective energy alternatives to fossil fuel. He says, without a substantial carbon tax, there is no incentive for innovators or for plant buyers to switch. For plant buyers, yeah, okay. So those would be, I guess, the billionaire stakeholders who own everything. Understand that he's pushing exactly the same talking points that we saw being offered by Schellenhuber 6 years ago. He's talking about being fossil-free by 2050. Where did you hear that? Oh, yeah, that's right. The bishops are now pushing that. The global bishops are pushing that for the Catholic Church. Carbon-free by 2050. So is Bill Gates. You see, it's almost as if they got together in a room and created a script, some talking points to convince you that you need a global governance. You know, the bottom line is that everything boils down to being controlled at a single point, because Bill Gates and the other billionaires don't want to have to buy so many different individual politicians. They just like to be able to get one guy at the top. Once they can control him, they can control everything. You know, kind of like one ring to rule them all and in the darkness bind them. I guess we could call him George Sauron, because that's essentially what they're giving us. Now, that is what they're going towards. That is their goal. The way they're going to do that is with redistribution of wealth, to redistribute it at a national level from the wealthy nations to the developing countries, as I say. And I just read that for you in the last section. But then they're also going to redistribute the wealth at a local level. They're going to be pushing intolerance in the name of tolerance. They're going to be shutting down culture